and, and welcome to another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast, everyone. Good Friday. Hey, Johnny, how are you?
I'm not bad, brother. I'm not bad. I could be a lot better, but hey, we'll talk about that. So what more could you ask for?
Hang on now. Look who's saying hello.
Gladys Adam.
I just wanted to throw that up there. Hi, Gladys. Whoops, where did John go? Oh, John decided I tell you, he's got to learn to feed those squirrels.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I don't know what happened.
So the topic today, just so everybody knows, is going to be just two things, well, kind of two things. What the heck, and I didn't swear, is happening at the border. And John, the co-host, Johnny Farquhar, is recovering from COVID. So we're going to trip back to John's trucking days and play a little game. And we're going to talk about COVID and stuff like that at the end and how it would have affected John on the road. So first of all, Johnny, what the heck is going on at the border right now?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I don't think I want to be there. Come tomorrow? Well, that's tomorrow. We could say at 12:01 tomorrow morning, which will be just after midnight tonight. If you haven't got your ducks in a row and you haven't got your vaccination slip and your proof of a full vaccination, you're going to be having a holiday that you don't want. A 14-day holiday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is, I think it's crazy. And it started with sorry, I'm trying to fix your background there, buddy.
I just realized that.
It disappeared there.
See, my squirrels left me, and my background drops out of place. So can't win everything. Here we go. Here we
go. Hey. All right. So
anyway,
Wednesday, wasn't it Wednesday?
Yes.
When I think it was the border agents came out with their statement saying, truck drivers are going to be okay.
Yep. CBSA hadn't made a formal announcement. There was nothing in writing, apparently, but there was some meetings that were had, some transportation associations, some news outlets had got wind of this. And it was like, hey, there's a reprieve for Canadian truck drivers. And, if you're unvaccinated, you'll still be able to come into Canada. You were going to anyway. But now you won't have to quarantine. So, hey, life was going to be grand. It was like, woo, okay, drivers can come and go again. So kind of a bit of a reprieve for maybe a week because we know the U.S. is still coming in. But other than that, it was like, hey, this is great. So, and then something else happened.
Well, I mean, at the time when that was released, I went, oh my God, this is finally, I think maybe the government was listening. Because it's not just the trucking associations that are really concerned about this. There's manufacturers, auto parts people, everybody that trucks or hires trucks to move freight.
I'm sure even families of drivers, because this meant, my husband or my wife, my spouse could be out of work right now because they can't cross the border. And, there's no jobs working within the province. They're all taken up, and there's nothing running across Canada right now because they're all taken up. So I'm sure this was a bit of a relief for a lot of families as well.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden the other shoe dropped and the federal government said, time out. We never said that exactly.
Exactly. So apparently somebody opened their mouth that shouldn't have opened their mouth and said something they shouldn't have said something because it really wasn't true. And as they say, somebody spoke in error.
Yeah. And are you there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I just pulled up that the link.
I see it on the screen there. Yeah, and I think it actually mentions in there that it was made in error, the statement or something like that. Yeah. So,
well, I just here's some of the highlights. Canadian truck drivers who are not fully vaccinated can't be denied entry into Canada. Well, hallelujah. However,
Yep.
you might have to vaccinate. So this.
Well, and I want to jump in there, Chris, real quick. Right in that same area where you were talking about, and we talked about this earlier in the week, or not earlier in the week, last week in the podcast. Right there in that same statement, it says Canadian citizens, persons registered as Indians under the Indian Act, and permanent residents. So we talked about this last week when we said, if you're not a permanent resident yet, you have a work visa, but you're not a permanent resident, this could cause you some grief getting back into Canada.
Yes, sir. And it's such a confusing time. So right now, as it stands for Canadians, permanent residents, those that are covered under the Indian Act, will be allowed to come into Canada. However, you may have to quarantine. And this is very dependent. I found this interesting too. The final decision regarding entry and quarantine is made by the government representative at the port of entry based on information presented at the time. So they're not even saying that you have to quarantine. They're saying that the border official who's allowing you into the country is going to determine that. That's a lot of power. The border officials have always had a great deal of power. But this is very subjective now. So not sure I'm a fan of what's happening. But the main thing I want our listeners to hear is as of tomorrow, 12:01 a.m. tomorrow morning, you've got to use the ArriveCan app. Is the easiest way, and you should be double vaxxed, or else other stuff could happen. So.
And I don't think we're going to know what totally all that other stuff is until it starts to play out, and we start to hear stories of drivers stuck at the border, drivers turned around at the border. This is going to be interesting as to how this all plays out. So we can only speculate what's going to happen, but hey, we're not there.
Yeah, and aren't we good at speculating?
Oh God, yes. That's half the fun.
Right.
So I'd like to say, if there's any listeners that are watching this podcast or watch any of our podcasts and you're a cross-border driver, let us know how the experience is for you. We'd love to hear. Put it in the comments down below and let us know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, because it's going to be a cluster fudge. And the other part is, and I've had varying opinions. I've asked a few trucking company owners about this. What's it going to do to border crossing times? And I've had everything from it's going to be a disaster to it's not going to affect anything. If you show up with the ArriveCan app, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know what's going to happen at the border. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's been a lot of drivers that are already using the ArriveCan app. So it'll be interesting. So, and I see there's a comment from Jonathan. Yeah.
I was just going to say, good morning, Jonathan, first of all.
Yeah, morning. So
and
there's
Jonathan.
No doubt. I know Jonathan very well. Yeah. Well, we get along great because the first two letters of our name are the same. So.
And we'll throw a shout out. I was talking to Jonathan earlier this week, and he said he goes to the Kitchener, what do you call that? The Fleet Safety Council.
Yep.
And he sees you there on a regular basis. So
the border we meet monthly. So
yeah, I was just going to read Jonathan's comment, and thanks for the comment, Jonathan. The border is going to be an absolute disaster until they get this process smoothed out.
Yep. Well, I know there's a lot of drivers that are already using the ArriveCan app, but there's also a lot of drivers that are still not using the ArriveCan app. So with CBSA saying you got to use the ArriveCan app, there's where the delay is going to come in, because it's now going to be a matter of I got to pull out my piece of paper to show my proof of vaccination or on my phone or whatever it be. This is going to take time. And then the border guard's going to have to look at it. He's going to have to, this, that, and the other thing. And whereas the ArriveCan app, it shows up on their screen. They pull up your license plate number, boom, all the information's there. It just throws everything off for a whack. So the rest of our names are spelled and pronounced differently. Yes. So true. So you're going to have guys that are doing it right, which are going to streamline through. But in between that, you're going to have drivers that aren't doing it, and that's going to be the cumbersome. So all it's going to do is just cause delay. And if it's a 2-minute delay here, it compounds because it'll be a 2-minute delay there. It'll be a 2-minute delay there, a 5-minute delay there, 5-minute delay. And that's next thing you know, instead of having a 15-minute wait getting to the border, we're going to have a whole bunch of trucks coming in at one time, and now it's going to be a 2-hour delay at the border.
Well, and the other thing I'd just like to mention, it does say it in that article that I threw on the screen there, make sure drivers that you have your backup info in case something happens to the ArriveCan app, in case, anyways, just make sure you've got either printed documents or it's saved on your cell phone somehow so that you've got a secondary proof that you've been double vaxxed if that's the case, of course.
So now I want to throw in. It's not dropping the other shoe. It's just going to throw a totally different shoe into the mix here. What about next Saturday?
Well, January the 22nd. I was going to bring that up next.
And there's no app for going into the U.S. They've not come up with an app for border crossing for producing documentation. There's actually been nothing even stated of what the U.S. border guards are going to be looking for as proof of vaccination.
Yep. So, and what John's referring to, of course, is entering the States as of, we believe, our best guess is January the 22nd. So 1 week from tomorrow, you will have to show proof of being double vaxxed because we are foreigners as we enter the States, and they've deemed it necessary to limit us entering their country, which is certainly their right. And by the way, Canada's done the same to our foreign truck drivers that are coming in. It is very limited. You must be double vaxxed to come into our country with proof of double vaccination, of course. So if January is an interesting month.
Yeah. Well, and this has actually been in place for a little bit for non-essential travel, so tourism, whatnot. You've been able to go stateside, but you've had to provide proof of vaccination. So I haven't crossed the border since this went into play. So I don't know what they're even asking for. I know you got to have proof of vaccination, but I haven't heard of what. Like, is it on your phone? Is it okay? Are they looking for a paper copy? What? There's nothing, and there's no website or app to load anything up to. So it's really interesting. I'd be curious to see what they're going to be doing. But whatever it is they do, it's going to take time.
Yes. And again, drivers or companies, if you know what's going to be happening at the border, going into the U.S. is what John's talking about. We would love to hear. Leave us a comment, or a truck driver, leave us a comment next week as to what your experience is crossing the U.S. border. Going into the U.S., of course, we kind of know what's going to happen coming home, although that's going to be an experience as well. John, is that about it for border crossing? We've got going into the States starts January the 22nd. We got to show proof of being double vaxxed. Coming home, coming into Canada for Canadian residents, Canadian citizens, and those covered under the Indian Act. You can always come home, but you may up to the border official. Anyway, because I wanted to get to our second topic.
We have two topics today, don't we? That's so interesting.
But you're a recovering alcohol. No.
I wish it was alcohol.
You are a recovering COVID victim.
I am, and I never thought I'd get to talk so proudly about, hey, I got the vid. I come down with flu-like symptoms a week ago. So last Friday, I started with a scratchy throat Friday evening, and started feeling quite fatigued, and. I just thought it was a busy day. My wife and I were out running errands and doing such, and whatnot, and come home, and I was getting a scratchy throat, and thought, okay, well, I picked up something. And then Saturday went downhill very quickly. Was very fatigued, lightheadedness. The throat got worse. By Sunday, it was like I was trying to swallow broken glass. It hurt so bad. Some congestion, tiredness, achy bones, achy muscles, everything. And then Monday was, I think, the bottom. I hit bottom on Monday, and it was absolutely terrible. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't cope, couldn't manage, tried to sleep most of the day. And interesting enough, during all this time, so Friday night wasn't bad, but Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, and probably into Tuesday night, I did not sleep at all. Just like literally minutes at a time, and then you're awake, and then you're trying to sleep and awake, and stupid dreams and stuff that was going on. Tuesday was my coming out of the hole day. Was starting to feel better. Wednesday felt really good in the morning, and then it kind of dropped off in the afternoon. And ever since then, it's been pretty much about staying steady, nowhere near back to 100% by any means. Even today, here we are 8 days later, and I'm not. But we did a rapid test on Wednesday, and I tested positive. Now, my wife and I have been side by side since Wednesday evening, like a week ago Wednesday evening. I was out in the field. I had client visits and whatnot. And then come home Wednesday evening, and my wife had been side by side with me all that time. Even Friday when we were out, we were together. We didn't have a lot of interaction with other people. Wednesday, I would say I had some interaction. We had some client visit and meetings, but I was in one location. There was mask wearing and whatnot, but also at the same time, there were a lot of people in that office, and they were obviously quite comfortable with one another because as employees, they were not wearing masks in their close proximity. But wore a mask in and out of the meeting and whatnot, and then spaced in the meeting and such like that. But I don't know. There was nobody with any symptoms of any sort that made me go, ooh, I stay away from you. There was none of that. And as my wife and I have talked about it several times, is I didn't even have to be in contact with somebody. I could have picked it up touching a doorknob, opening the door to get out. It could have been there were the location that we were at. I could actually see the front foyer from where I was sitting in the boardroom, and there were several people that had come through the front door during our time period there, and delivery people, other people coming and going. One of them, I don't even have to be in contact with them, but they could have maybe touched the door. Yeah. Left something behind, and I happened to grab the door on the way out, because one of the interesting things is when I'm with people, I'm always the first one to grab the door. I open the door and hold it for other people. I'm just that gentleman. Yeah, but it's also like take one for the team. But yeah, so we're not sure where it came from, but it's definite symptoms started showing up on Friday evening.
All right,
and it very, very much flu-like.
I wanted to ask you, put your driver's hat on.
Okay.
Here you are, 500 miles away from home. Oh, he's going for a hat. All right. Here you are, 500 miles away from home. It's, I believe you said Friday it started to hit you.
Yep.
How would you cope with this if you were a truck driver on the road?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I can actually share this good information, because my wife and I had sat down and we've talked about this left, right, and center many times, and also on top of that, I had 2 incidents back years ago when I was driving truck where I did get very sick. It was more stomach flu, so it didn't last very long. But interesting enough, if Friday be a good time, that maybe I would be on my way out, heading out of the country, and I'm headed stateside or something like that. Yeah. Oh, there you go. The enforcement guy. Yes. But I said by Saturday I was just whacked, and then Sunday got worse and Monday got worse. If I was on the road, I would have been. I definitely would have been zonked by Saturday. And the sad part is, because if I had been on the way out or even on the way home, there's a good chance I probably would have pushed it. which would only make it worse. And I would say definitely Sunday and Monday, I wasn't going anywhere. I was on the couch Sunday. I have a nice lazy boy chair. I was in that stretched out. I was in bed most of Monday on the couch. It's like there was no going anywhere. I ached so bad. I hurt so bad. I couldn't have gotten in a truck if I wanted to. So I would have been bedbound in a truck. There's no doubt about it. And then, even this morning, feeling the way that I am, here we are 8 days after the fact. Weezy and I were talking about, well, where would I be? What would I do if it was today? And I said, well, if I was on the road trying to get home still, I'd probably push it to come home. And the problem is I'd be way more fatigued than I should be for operating a commercial motor vehicle. But if I was at home, I'd be calling Jonathan up and saying, there's no way I'm going out in that truck, Jonathan. There's just no way. I'm in no shape. And he'd be upset because he'd go, but I got the truck to go. I got nobody else. This truck's got to go. And I'd be trying to beg him to not make me go because I'm just in no shape. So not to say what I've gone through the last 8 days is what everybody else is going to have. Yeah, everybody's going to be different. There's no doubt. But you need to be cognizant of the fact I've been double vaxxed. Today, actually, we were supposed to go for our booster shot. We canceled those on Wednesday, knowing that we were in no shape to get that. Prior to that, I had nothing. Everything was great, but this has kicked me in the butt so bad I feel like an 80-year-old man.
And I don't think your symptoms are that different from many. Of course, some people do get it milder, but some people get it much more severe. And I just want to say, a shout out to NAL, but, can you imagine John's experience on the road?
Yeah.
And there are truck drivers that are experiencing this on the road.
Yep.
So to say thank a trucker is an understatement, I think.
Well, so let me throw another twist in there. So just not from a trucker perspective, I'm getting better, but my wife now has contracted COVID, because of me, right? She's gotten it from me. Now, her symptoms are nowhere near as severe as what mine have been. And she's about 2 days, we figure, 2 days behind where I've been. She's not gone through as severe of symptoms. She's got the scratchy voice, a lot of phlegm, congestion and whatnot, tired, achy, but just not to the severity that I am. But seriously, if I was a driver at home and now I brought that home to my wife or my kids, and all of a sudden now I got Jonathan going, hey, Johnny, I need you to jump in the truck and go. And I'm going, Jonathan, my wife and kids have got this now, and there's nobody here to take care of them. I've gotten better, but I can't leave them like this. This is not fair. So it certainly doesn't take long to go from 8 days to 14 days to 16 days. I'm not working.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Because of this thing. And I picked it up wherever, like I said, off a doorknob or something. So it just goes to show you can be as careful as you want to be. You can be vaccinated and you're still going to get this, and it's going to kick you in the butt.
Well, even, you mentioned the booster. I got my booster last Saturday, so now it's been the 5 days, so it should have acted. But I'll tell you, my wife and I, we were quite different, just like you're talking about the COVID. On Sunday, I was fatigued all day. Mm-hmm. I never nap. I had 2 naps on Sunday, and I went to bed at 9:30 at night. Felt fine Monday, but I got my booster on Saturday. Was just whacked out, and of course your arm feels like somebody gave you a big punch. But but Tina, my wife, she felt fine. Her arm was sore, but other than that, she had she was fully functional. So it is different for everybody.
Treat you differently. Yeah.
I'll tell you, this is
exactly
a heck of a thing. So, John, we got to wrap it up. I know. Well, first of all, it's Friday. Hoo-ha!
Yay! TGIF.
And I want to say thanks to NAL. Where am I going there? There, look at that.
Yep, there we go. Thank you, trucker.
Thanks to NAL for that new hat. I
There
appreciate
you
that.
go.
And yes, thank a trucker, because as you just heard, if John was on the road, I think it would have been an absolute nightmare. I've written about
Yeah.
this in the past.
Mhm.
I've done articles about what happens to truck drivers when they are on the road and they catch the flu
Yeah.
long before COVID
Yes.
ever came around.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
catch the
Yep.
flu. And what a thankless thing. I can't imagine having a bucket beside your bunk, or in the
Oh.
bunk, of course,
No.
and having the flu and nobody there to bring you a glass of water.
Yep.
Um,
Nobody to tuck you in, give you your teddy bear.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't care.
Well,
Us men, we're
and
pretty
interesting
sucks
enough,
when,
it does. And interesting enough, being as I've been laid on my back here for the last week now, I've had a lot of chance to just do some research and read a lot more news articles about the pandemic. And this Omicron virus they're saying everybody's going to get it sooner or later because it's just so contagious. They can't contain it. So it's the best you can do to protect yourself. So the sad part is, if everybody is eventually going to get it, it's only going to be a matter of time before everybody goes through what I went through, whether you're vaccinated or not. So it all depends on the severity. But at the same time, that means somebody's going to be out of work for several days all the time. And it's just going to compound. So you think the border's going to get busy. I think you're going to have trucks that are going to sit idle. There's people at stores, they're not going to be able to go to work. The grocery store, the beer store, the gas pumping station, whatever, because somebody's going to be sick and they just can't get to work for those next few days. So, and we already say there's not enough people to fill those seats that are empty.
Yeah, to say that we're in interesting times, I think, is an understatement.
Yes.
We've never had to manage anything like this in the past. Between potential border crossing issues starting tomorrow with the lack of drivers. I mean, I've been asking clients, how is this affecting them? And a 36 truck client of mine said they're losing 3 drivers because 3 drivers, and they've offered bonuses and all kinds of other incentives. 3 people within their rights have said, no, I'm not getting vaccinated.
Sure.
They are probably leaving trucking, which is terrible because I love trucking and truck driving and the whole industry. And that's one client, one trucking company. So that's roughly 10% of their driving force. And I think that's probably an accurate number from what I've read in the paper, that 10% of the people, 10% of our drivers moving our freight cross-border are not double vaxxed. And which is within their rights.
And I'm
a vaxxer. I mean, I've already said I got my booster and everything, so I believe in it. But I also believe that, thank God, we're in a free country and people do have rights. I'm really torn as to about this whole thing. But anyway, Johnny, I just wanted to say it is a pleasure again. And by the way, just for our listeners, John and I are not in the same room. Of course, John's out near London, Ontario somewhere, and I'm here in Hamilton through the power of the internet. It may look like we're close, but we're really not. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, we're really far away. Something like that.
So I just want to thank everybody. John, we've had 4 people put up with our nonsense for the last 30 or so minutes.
I love it. And then the smart people are the ones that are waiting till the recording comes out rather than seeing it live.
Well, hey, and this has been another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. Next week, by the way, this week we were supposed to have Jamie Irvin of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. It's a podcast if you are interested in that. He was supposed to be on the show this week. We've already recorded the show, but we pushed Jamie off for at least a week because of kind of the breaking news, the nonsense that's happening at the border. So I just wanted to say thanks to Jamie of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. We'll get you on very, very soon. All right, and I'll put a link to the Heavy Duty Parts Report podcast in the show notes just to give Jamie a shout out there. But cool. Just wanted to say to everybody, thank you all. Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. I'm out of here. Johnny, have a good weekend.
Perfect. I will do. Time for a nap.
And Jonathan says, you got that right. Smart people are not watching. I'll put that one over you.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jonathan. Appreciate that.
All right. And with that, I'll say we're out of here.
All right. Take care, everybody.